It's all a story, and you're but one part in it. You know what you must do.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. The recent House of the Dragon Season 2 episodes have included a bunch of extra background scenes and details about what Helena has seen in her dragon dreams, and they reveal that they go way beyond her just having one specific dragon dream at any given time. Like, it's not just one dream here and there. She spends most of her time in a dreamlike state and can't really distinguish her dragon dreams from reality or normal dreams. Based on the Easter eggs they've shown us so far up to the events of Episode 3, as of me posting this video, she's seen Jon Snow, Daenerys, the events of Robert's Rebellion, and more. She's seen the Dunk and Egg series, basically everything that's going to happen up to the second long night, the Night King, the White Walkers coming back. It's like somebody gave her the DVDs for the original Game of Thrones series, and she's been watching them in her dreams. Most of her new dragon dreams they revealed the last couple of episodes deal with moments from the future in particular, but dragon dreams can also include visions of things from the past too. When you're talking about dragon dreams, there's no distinguishing between past, present, and future. Like, it's all kind of mixed together, which is also why Helena doesn't have a lot of context for why things are important when she's seeing them or when they're going to happen. Like, she just sees things without any context. So we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. During the recent behind-the-scenes featurettes, the showrunner, the set designers revealed that, as you'd expect, like per protocol in Westeros, Helena, when she married Aegon and he was crowned king, she moved into Alicent's old chambers in the Red Keep. They're just called the Queen's Chambers. They're really big. Alicent, now the Queen Dowager, moved across the hallway, like within eyeshot, into Rhaenyra's old chambers. If it wasn't clear, she's living in Rhaenyra's old chambers when she's in the middle of doing it with Criston Cole here. Which is like a whole other video you could talk about, because now Criston Cole has bedded both Rhaenyra and Alicent in that room. They also revealed that most of Rhaenyra's old things from her childhood are still in that room. The way they designed that scene was to make it as awkward as possible, like it was all on purpose. They wanted to feel like they were surrounded by Rhaenyra while they were doing it, because at the time, both of them are still kind of obsessed with Rhaenyra. But what's happened since Helena moved into the Queen's Chambers is that she's redecorated the room to suit her personality. She's the lovable weirdo, like she has that massive, massive bug collection. And because she spends every day in this dreamlike state, the way they talk about it is sort of like this half-fugue state where she's constantly bombarded by dragon dreams and imagery. And because it's all the time, since she was a young girl, she started getting these dragon dreams, she hasn't been able to distinguish between reality and the dragon dreams.
Helena, who is much more dreamlike and of the natural world, has actually scrawled what we could respectfully call graffiti on the walls.
She has graffitied her walls with her dreams.
So, for example, she saw the events of Blood and Cheese before it was going to happen. There's actually a specific moment later where they actually show her scribbling down notes about her dreams, like in her sketchbook, where it shows the events of Blood and Cheese. I'll show in a second. But because when she saw those things in her dragon dream, she had no context for when it was going to happen, if it was a dream of the past, if it was just a regular dream, or if it was a dragon dream of something from the future. Sometimes she just thinks they're random nonsense dreams that normal people would have. And even when she thinks they might be something from the future or something important, she has no context for when it's going to happen. At the beginning of episode 1, she's shown here just casually making Jaehaerys' funeral shroud while Aegon is asking where he is, because she knows that at some point she'll need it, it'll be important, but she doesn't know when it's going to be important, so she's just unconsciously sewing this.
I'm afraid, not the dragons. The rats.
Later during some of her dreams, you actually see a drawing of a dead baby Jaehaerys in this funeral shroud. So she's kind of like Bran now when he became the Three-Eyed Raven on the original series and had the sum total of all knowledge and history of Westeros uploaded into his mind, many thousands of years of history to every small detail. Like he could tell you what somebody had for breakfast down in the Reach 10,000 years ago. But because it was so much information, it was like having the internet uploaded into his mind without an actual search bar. Like he had no context for what things were important, when things happened. He just knew that things happened for some reason. Luckily, during the original series, Samwell came along and understood what was going on with Bran's mind and was able to act kind of like the Google search bar, trolling the internet of Bran for specific information. The problem during House of the Dragon, though, is that Aegon, Alicent, everybody around Helena, like the Greens, have no idea that she's having dragon dreams and seeing the actual future and what to do to actually pick out specific information and actually understand what the dreams themselves mean.
The Queen is an enduring mystery, is she not?
If you remember, the whole reason why Aegon the Conqueror conquered the Seven Kingdoms, now they basically retconned this into the series with George R. R. Martin's help. He saw a dragon dream of the second long night. He saw the Night King, the White Walkers, so he didn't know when that was going to happen. He just knew that at some point it was going to happen, and he understood. And what Helaena has now done in the short time since she's moved into the Queen's chambers is graffiti all the walls of the room here with her dragon dreams. Now, this is what we know she's seen. Not everything, because there's only a couple walls that they show here, and she's graffitied every single inch of every single wall. So keep in mind that she's seen way more than the stuff that I'm talking about during this video, just starting at the beginning of the stuff that they actually show us here. On the far right here, the stag and the raven seem like they represent Robert Baratheon and for House Baratheon. This stag doesn't have a crown, so I'll say it's probably her seeing part of Robert's rebellion, younger Robert Baratheon before the events. Down on the left, there's a large bug creature. Helaena also obsessed with bugs. She has all of her tables here in the Queen's chambers being used to hold her bug collections. It is massive. If we're talking about dragon dreams here, though, I'm not sure what the beetle would represent. This could always be an ice spider from the White Walkers, but it looks more like a giant beetle. There was a conversation that Tyrion Lannister had during the original Game of Thrones Season 4 before his trial by combat starts, where he remembers his youth at Casterly Rock. His cousin Orson Lannister used to smash beetles all the time. He would ask him, why would you kill beings if they had done you no harm, essentially? It was meant to be a metaphor for why Cersei, Tywin Lannister were coming after him so hard for Joffrey's murder, even though he had done them no wrong. It was actually the Queen of Thorns that killed Joffrey, but he didn't know they didn't know that at the time. So it could be Helaena having seen Tyrion's trial in the trial by combat. This thing above the beetle looks like an actual spider, though. This is probably a reference to Varys, the spider, quote-unquote, during the events of the original series, and his plot for the Targaryen restoration, because it's so near the stag here. This picture of the human body with the wolf head on it is probably Robb Stark after the Red Wedding when they put Grey Wind's head on his body and carted it around. So Helaena has essentially seen the events of the Red Wedding. The stag above it is another Robert Baratheon reference, House Baratheon, maybe for them during the War of the Five Kings. Over behind the plant here, there's a bunch of stuff behind the plant, so it's a little blurry. There are a bunch of eyes, red for fire, what look like tentacles. The many eyes here in the fire might be a Melisandre reference when she spoke to Arya about all the eyes that she saw that she would shut, telling Arya basically the visions of the Red God had given her in the flames were all the people that she would eventually kill. Further behind the plant, there's a wolf's head that's been severed and an eye below it with the blood pouring onto the eye. This would probably be one of the direwolves that was killed. The eye probably represents another vision. This could be Shaggy Dog, Rickon's direwolf that was beheaded and given to Ramsay Bolton. Down at the bottom, there's a lion with a person standing on it. That's probably the Lannisters, maybe Cersei or Joffrey. It's hard to tell the person is behind this plant. Then this one is actually pretty important. Most people probably understood this one. This burning woman is Daenerys during the events of Season 1 when she hatched her dragon eggs in the funeral pyre for Khal Drogo, like in the flames. The dragon right next to her is her dragons. The eye with the flames is probably Daenerys' own dragon dreams that she got of the Long Night and the events of her burning King's Landing in the Iron Throne. Knowing the full context of the series, you could also say that the snow here in the throne room was meant to be the ash from her destruction, her burning King's Landing. So Helaena has seen the events of the entire original series. The boards above it are probably for Robert Baratheon. I'm assuming this is the boar that killed him because this happened close to the same time period as Daenerys was hatching her dragons. Over on the left here, the direwolf with the crown on his head is probably Jon Snow when he was crowned King of the North, the King in the North. The owl could be a bunch of different things here. It might be a reference to House Garner, whose sigil is the owl, which most people know for Alan Garner during the tourney of Ashford Meadow, which is essentially the events of the Dunk and Egg series that they're in the middle of filming right now. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is what they're calling it. So Helaena might have just seen the events of Dunk and Egg, which happens later in the timeline after the Dance of the Dragons, which would make sense because most of her visions here on the walls, her scribbles, her drawings are of the future. Then zoom out and enhance, there's a ton of dragon dreams here. Starting on the left, the ship with the eye is probably Daenerys sailing her fleet back to Westeros. I can't tell what the eye with the letters below it are. You can let me know what you think this might be. Over on the right, the woman, the stag attacking her with the crown, but with the smaller stag is Robert Baratheon. It's probably Robert Baratheon coming for Lyanna Stark during the events of Robert's rebellion. This woman here is probably Lyanna Stark before her death. Notice she has a bunch of sketchbooks that she's scribbled her dragon dreams into. This is actually a really big deal because books during this period, in real life medieval periods as well too, were a huge deal. They were extremely expensive. In one way, the people of that era in real life would show off their wealth to other people was to show them their libraries, just because books were so rare and so expensive. So you have to remember that Helena is the queen. She has essentially unlimited money, so she has a lot of sketchbooks that she can just scribble things in. It's sort of like the joke of Aegon II pulling out Aegon the Conqueror's Valyrian armor and putting it on. On the show, this is meant to be actual Aegon the Conqueror's Valyrian suit of armor, which they say is worth more than a kingdom. Like, that's how rare and expensive Valyrian steel is. And they just have it sitting around in storage because this is the height of Targaryen power. There's going to be a lot of questions of what happens to that Valyrian armor at some point in the history, like after Robert's Rebellion. Who got that? Who stole that? But in the book, the actual scribbles here, the goose kills is a reference to the Battle of the Cargill twins. Their house sigil is a goose, R.I.P., so she saw both of them go down recently. This lighthouse is a sigil for House Hightower during the Dance of the Dragons, their role in everything that's happening right now. The birds with the sword is a sigil for House Aaron, I think. There's a dragon with the word queen scrawled under it. That's probably for Rhaenyra and Syrax. This boar killing the wolf and the two beheaded wolves also seem like a reference to Robert's Rebellion and the events of Season 1 with Ned Stark's death from Joffrey Baratheon, the king. But the two dead direwolves are probably Rickard Stark and Brandon Stark that were killed by Mad King Aerys before Robert's Rebellion, basically setting off the events of Robert's Rebellion. Zoom and enhance, notice Helena's also scribbled a rat with a knife here. This is Blood and Cheese, her seeing those events. And this is her dead baby Jaehaerys beneath the boar in his funeral shroud, which is how she got the idea to actually create it. Like, she knew it'd be important at some point, but she didn't know when it would happen or in what context it would happen. There's a bunch of other imagery here for all of her bugs as well too, like she's just fascinated by the world of bugs. But the spider from Season 1 that they show here is also a reference to her spider prophecy that she had during Season 1. That was part of a larger dragon dream about the actual Dance of the Dragons itself, when she said, hand turns loom, spool of green, spool of black, dragons of flesh, weaving dragons of thread. The whole weaving metaphor also becomes a much bigger deal because they made the new tapestry opening scene being woven telling the story of the Targaryen family. Spools weaving dragons of thread, metaphorically and literally. The metaphor and the dragon dream work on multiple levels with this, so you can see why they use the tapestry for the new intro as well too. Like, there are a number of different reasons why they use this in particular. There are a couple of you that also requested I do a specific bonus video just for what's happening during the new intro, because there's a bunch of imagery. It's basically the entire history of the Targaryen family and the Valyrians, so there's a bunch of very specific imagery. There's even Nissa in the background too for the original Azor Ahai. What I might do with that is just wait a couple more weeks for them to introduce a couple more changes to the intro, because just like in the original series, every time something happens, they sort of incorporate it into the intro for the next episode. So maybe I'll wait till they do all the different changes and then do a mega video just for the intro itself. One of the other cool details too, especially when it comes to Helena's dragon dreams, a lot of the imagery when they're tying things to the original Game of Thrones series with Jon Snow, Daenerys visions that she has in her dragon dreams, is they said a lot of the Easter eggs that they bake into the show, they want to use to sort of tie the entire timeline of shows all together. So for instance, they're making an Aegon's Conqueror TV show right now for Aegon I. We're probably not going to see that for a couple of years, but they're finally doing the actual Conquest as a TV series. That's probably the reason why they carted out Aegon the Conqueror's Valyrian suit of armor, because we'll see him wearing that suit of armor during the Conquest episodes when we eventually see those in a couple years. We'll probably also see Aegon the Conqueror having his dragon dream and then having that Valyrian dagger made or etched with Valyrian pyromancers. I think the dagger already existed and he just had the prophecy etched onto it in addition to it just already existing. So do not be surprised if you see more Easter eggs like this in future episodes. They also tried to introduce the concept of Daenerys' dragon eggs showing up from Syrax's clutch on the TV show, which kind of flies in the face of some book canon too. So when I talk about Easter eggs on the show, I'll try to point out whether or not they're changing book canon or they come from the books or if it's like something totally new to the show. For the most part, it seems like with a lot of these Easter eggs, especially the dragon dreams that Helena's having, the way they're retconning things in for Aegon's conquest and his prophecy of the Long Night, is the show is just doing its own thing with George R. Martin's help, sort of tying up some of the continuity, retconning a few things. If there's any other dragon dreams of Helena's that you spotted in the background of some of these behind the scenes, like scribbled, remember, it's on all the walls of the Queen's chambers, and they only showed us a couple of the walls, so there's like a bunch of other dragon dreams of the future she's seen. If you think you spotted any others, just write them below in the comments. My full episode 4 video will post on Sunday after they release it. Everybody click here for that. I'll update the link as soon as I post it, and click here for all my other House of the Dragon episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.